Blingy matching designer.
ये है मास्क
95% filtration, 5 layers, BIS certified.
ये है बड़े काम का मास्क नया सेवलॉन मास्क सिर्फ 95 रुपीस में
Hello and welcome to another edition of Expressions. We are doing a special on COVID and it's presented to you by the New Indian Express in Savlon. Today we have a very interesting man who's done an enormous amount of work during the last year, trying to get people across, trying to get people home, trying to get food across to people, trying to get oxygen cylinders. Really, I think it's a logistical nightmare which he has really been able to crack with a whole lot of help, of course. He's put together something called the Rapid Rural Community Response to COVID, which he's the founder of Srijan, an NGO, and he's put together this community of over 60 nonprofits, which has really worked tremendously on the ground. And he has so many stories of heartbreak, but also of hope from the ground. So today we're going to speak to him to understand actually what the situation is on the ground and what are the things that we learned from the first wave but perhaps didn't act upon, and what are the lessons now from the second wave of COVID. So welcome, Darya ji. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. And really, let's get into the conversation right away and talk about what are the lessons from the first wave? You knew how difficult it was for people to get back home. You were saying that already people were complaining about the stigma of COVID in villages. They were not getting tested. They were not moving to quarantine centers. There were so many problems which the government, state and center should have anticipated, knowing that these were happening. So do tell us.
Thank you, Kaveri, for inviting me. It's really a very sad moment and what the country is going through.
Yeah.
And some of the lessons that we learned in the first wave are useful. Some of them are so sad that we did not really learn them well, and now we are suffering the consequences of, opportunity sometimes does not come the next time, and you have to make use of the opportunities. In fact, the RCRC we set up, then we thought crisis was an opportunity, but we were actually not really prepared to even learn lessons. So I would say 4 lessons we learned in the first wave: that the foot soldiers were community resource persons, the women, ladies who were the leaders of the SHGs, self-help groups, and their federations. They were only available. None of us was going that time also, and forget about this time as well. This is the community institutions like the SHGs and the leaders were and are. So how much we invest in them is very important. And going forward, when we are talking about livelihoods resilience, but also now we are talking about health resilience. I'm talking about livelihoods because all of us are livelihoods organizations. That's why we often talk about livelihoods resilience. And so we build capacity in them to do like veterinary care, etc. But in health resilience, what is it that we can do when ASHAs are not there, or there but not sufficient? There is a book called Where There Is No Doctor. David Werner wrote it. But we have to also write a book where there is no ASHA, right? Although there are 1 million ASHAs in this country. So one point is that when rural health infrastructure is inadequate, a number of ASHAs are inadequate, then community resource persons, the people's own representatives, they are going to be making the country more Atmanirbhar than ever before. So that is the first lesson we learned. Second is that we were not ready last time also for destruction.
Yeah.
Last time the destruction was more in the form of migrants returning, but this time it is not only migrants returning with virus, but also now what earlier people said, it was an urban phenomena or urban wave, but now unfortunately it has reached their doorsteps. So that
Right.
is, I don't know how we, last time our surveys revealed people cut down on food, people actually ran out of cash. Even in the third round of survey in December, people were 20-25% of people did not really had full food, even from PDS.
Right.
Now forget about dal and oil, the two things that are not part of the PDS ration. So how ready the PDS is, how ready
Right.
time the Narega is also not being announced. So I think how ready we are to actually to take care of the vulnerable communities, I am not so sure. There's no PMGKY
Right.
this time of 1.6 lakh crores. Third is that migrants returning. They were returning the last time again with a lot of stigma.
Right.
Uh, that they were set up in the quarantine. They set up quarantine centers in Bihar, but people did not actually stay in the night.
Right.
Now, the same story is repeating again. We are setting up village isolation centers, and nobody is going there because they are very afraid that they'll get picked up and taken to the hospital and or to, only to return dead. So many
Right.
people are saying, "मैं यहीं मर जाऊंगा, लेकिन वहां नहीं जाऊंगा." So that
Right.
kind of thing is also happening. We thoughtlessly promote these brick and mortar things, and we have to make them home like. So we are. This is the third lesson. How
Right.
do we think with the community rather than at the community? So number four, as I said earlier, it is now a rural wave.
Right.
Dr. Yogesh says that our proportion of the rural population versus the urban population is 7:3, right?
Right.
70% people there. So
Right.
ultimately, the deaths in the rural areas will also be double or more in the rural areas.
Right.
So now we have to return to mask wearing and safe distancing. Mask
Right.
wearing again has to become a norm like Hong Kong.
Right.
And Dr. Fauci also is continuing to say wear mask. These are
Wear
the
mask.
four lessons that I think we learned or did not learn enough. So we all
Exactly.
to our peril. Yes.
Right. Right. Now, along with that, what are the new elements that you're seeing in the second wave that are worrying you? Of course, the deaths, but I mean, the tremendous amount of deaths, and obviously all underreported. The actual number is far higher than what we think. What is worrying you about the second wave?
Three things are worrying me. First of all, when the death is at my doorstep or in the villages,
Yeah.
imagine a RWA that you live in, and
Yeah.
colony. If
Right.
5 deaths occurred in 1 month,
Yeah.
what would be the mental state of the people? RWA will restrict every movement.
Absolutely.
So there, but the community is more connected, not like in Delhi or in Bombay,
Right.
people are so don't talk to each other. So there, वो दहशत का माहौल है. People are really scared. If there's a death in that family, that can happen to me also. So
Right.
what is that doing? It is not so much the stigma this time. It is
Yeah.
the fear of death in every man's heart, every woman's heart. That is happening. So, and at the same time, what is reinforcing this fear of death is the TV news and the pictures that in Delhi hospitals also oxygens are not available. What to talk about a Udaipur hospital or a Bahraich hospital or a Anuppur hospital?
Right.
So the people don't want to go to the hospital because
Right.
what will happen to them? They will not have any chance. I'm talking about the poor people will not have any chance of getting a oxygenated bed.
Right.
Bahraich example I'll give you. There are two hospitals. I'm told by my friend Vinod Jain of Trust Community Livelihoods. In one hospital there are 190 beds, and in another hospital also 190 beds.
Right.
But in one hospital only 45 beds are oxygenated. Other 145 are not oxygenated. They are without oxygen.
Right.
And can you imagine the other hospital?
Yeah.
None of the beds is oxygenated.
God.
This is district hospital. So what will the villagers of the Bahraich think? They will not
Right.
go to L1 or L2, whatever that our UP government is creating. So
Right.
that is where the deep-seated fear that we will die
Right.
and there is no point going out. Second is the related to vaccine, which you have been hearing. Big lecture or big talk or big solutions also about vaccine hesitancy. So vaccine, one, it is related to death, as I said. Second is that people very unreasonably or reasonably remember what happened in family planning or the sterilization camps. So the sterilization camps in, because we have oral tradition in villages, the tales are still told. So they are saying that boys or the men will become impotent and the women will become infertile. They don't want to go near the vaccine station, and vaccine also is given the same place in many places where the treatment of the COVID patient is happening. So they are they're fearful of contracting COVID if they go for vaccine over there. So I can go into solutions also, but the second is vaccine hesitancy is high. Jharkhand average, for example, is 23%. Even though Chief Minister Hemant Soren is running a big campaign on vaccine, is the only state which is running a huge campaign just focused on vaccine. Vaccine availability, etc., is a different matter, but at least he's running that campaign. And so on. The third, that major pattern we are seeing is that what helps is close contact. The WhatsApp messages or videos or even things of celebrities like Amitabh Bachchan or anybody else is not going to help, because people want, fears are so many, you need personal talk, personal dialogue. So human resources that are put out by anybody, whether NGOs, we are talking about Seva Mandir, 4 volunteers per Asha. They want to multiply it 5 times.
Wow.
And they give them oximeters also, because some measurement if you give, then they say, okay, itna kharab nahi hai, because 85% of the people are only going to have mild. So the other 3 things I am saying, a pattern is lack of human resources is the last one at the front line, like not having a soldier on the China border or in a fight with Pakistan. So imagine what is happening in this war against the virus.
Right. So, Vijay, let's immediately come to the solutions. You've seen the problems. Let us see what are the solutions that we can come up with, and things that are practical, things that can be done in the short term, because we're running out of time. If we go on like this, there won't be enough people left to vaccine also. So what are the things that we can do in the short term?
So first cut, doctor advises us, Dr. Yogesh Jain advises us, Raman Kataria or other health experts are advising us is, first step should be mitigation. Then vaccination. So mitigation means that if soldiers are dying in the battlefield, what is the triage you have to do? You have to take them to the hospital. So in that, first thing you have to do is to measure and diagnose how many people are suffering. So the solution is every Asha should have oximeter. I don't understand the policy of, irrespective of the ruling party, Kaveri, you look at Rajasthan, Ashas don't have oximeters. You look at MP, Shivraj Singh Chauhan's government, they have a 2-tier policy. Team 1 will go only for symptoms like Asha, then Asha Sahayogni or somebody else will, ANM will go with oximeter. By the time ship has sailed, there also Ashas don't have oximeters. UP also, Panchayat elections have just taken place. Panchayat Pradhan or Sarpa Mukhya is supposed to be in charge of, or the committee there. So there also Ashas don't have oximeters. So first thing we have to do is in mitigation also have measurement, which means every Asha, if they don't have it, NGOs are going in, putting 4 or 5 volunteers per village and giving them oximeters, and they are measuring. That is one solution. Because there's a app that JSS has developed, Jan Swasthya Sahayog has developed, which if you feed oximeter reading and respiration rate, it tells you that person is red light means unsafe, take to the hospital and to the district hospital. If it is yellow, then take to PHC and maybe doc, that is enough. And third is green, which is safe. So we need oximeter kind of measurement. We also need apps which will quickly record and tell the person that you are safe or not safe, and then therefore take the corrective action. So that is the first major thing that we have to do. And this is very easy to do. Oximeter is 1,200 rupees, 1,400 rupees. We have already got in RCRC, thanks to SWAST and thanks to ACT, 20,000 oximeters have been already given to 25 NGOs across the country. So I must thank them. 1.6 crore rupees worth of oximeters have been given. And whatever funding proposals we are writing, we are saying that every Asha should have an oximeter. That is very important. To understand the extent of the damage or extent of the illness in the villages. We are also
Right.
doing death count survey, that is
Yeah.
separately we are doing, so that because currently the articles that are being written in the newspapers are about only the say municipality areas of Ahmedabad. Chinmay
Right.
wrote that article.
Right.
But we have to also write articles about what is the extent of the death and as well as the affliction in the villages. That's why RCRC is doing a med death count survey. Second is vaccine.
Yeah.
I think I'll give you with a positive example. In Jharkhand, I quoted 23% is the average of the state.
Right.
In Pradhan's vaccination drive in Jharkhand, the vaccination rate has gone up to 77%. So there is hope.
Right.
So we can run vaccination drives. In that, messaging from the top will not help.
Right.
What is helping Aga Khan Rule Support Program in Gujarat is that you take the Pradhan or a Mukhya or a Sarpanch or a SSG leader, if she has taken the vaccine, make a video out of the local influencer.
Right.
Local
Right.
language and a dialect, she will talk in Gujarati. If it's a tribal area, he will talk in some Marwadi, Meghwadi. And that people say that if he has done it or she has done it, I should go and get it done.
Right.
So it's not the usual, campaign that you run on a video or an NDTV, or I'm not saying NDTV, but generally national TV.
Right.
It requires a dialect, required Marathi, Udiya, Tamil, local language and local influencer will make a difference. As I given you the exemplified with the Pradhan example in Jharkhand, it is possible to do. But this has to be done. This has to be done very, very concertedly. So our centers in the villages, which we are calling village now health centers,
Yeah.
start with mitigation, but use the base that we have won with the trust we have won with the community to also start educating them about vaccine and use
Right.
and register on CoWIN or whatever. And then as soon as the vaccines become available,
Yeah.
start giving vaccine to all of them. If I have a right to vaccine, you have a right to vaccine. Every countryman and a woman has a right to vaccine today. And those fears can be can be overcome, as I said. Those third thing that would help is the rural people are very socially affected. So SHGs are very great success. So we need human resources at the ground level. So some people are recommending there has to be a second ASHA. We
Right.
should double the ASHA numbers, right? So there are
Right.
10 lakh ASHAs, we should have 20 lakh ASHAs. And why that is important, because going forward also, rural health infrastructure has crashed or it is
Yeah.
largely inadequate. There are many other diseases. So there is NCD, non-communicable diseases. There is diabetes in the villages. There is hypertension in the villages. And who knows, third wave will come. Dr. Yogesh Jain just told me in the morning, if antibodies are going to be only sufficient for 6 months
Yeah.
from your vaccine, again you are susceptible to some variant of this
Right.
virus. So we have to be prepared for third wave also.
Right.
We cannot assume like we did second wave will not come to India. Are we from Mars that we will not get second wave? But so
Right.
we got second wave. So we have to be prepared. So I think the best is to have the people on the ground, second ASHA or ASHA of the government and Swasth Sakhis of the NGOs. Jointly, we can do the work and then work with the PHCs, Kaveri. I think important 80% or 90% of our work will be at the village level. We work with PHC, we work with the Sarpanch and the Panchayat. So that's what I think is the game plan going forward. We can do all that. So I'm not talking about oxygen concentrators as much as that. One more thing I would say that if we are putting soldiers in the battlefront, like these ASHA or Anganwadi workers or our Swasth Karmi, what is the protection they need?
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't have masks.
Yeah.
A mask is not enough. They need face shields.
Right.
They need vaccination. They need sanitizer. And if they die, what is the insurance?
Yeah.
ASHA still has insurance. So we are putting together a 5 crore rupees fund. Initially, about 1.5 crore is being given by Ford Foundation to
Right.
cover all the workers to have their cost of treatment covered. That
Right.
means out-of-pocket expenses going to the hospital
Right.
or on medicine or on consultation, we are going to cover up to 50 to 60,000 rupees.
Okay.
And this is the fund we are creating, and we'll go to public. If Indian Express can help us to raise that much money, it will cover, because my heart goes out to them. What is their protection, physical protection, and also their families also will be at risk if
Right.
something happens to them, God forbid.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's when you say it, Reggie, it seems so simple. Somebody just has to make sure that it's implemented. Now we have a system in place, as you said. We have the political system. We have the sarpanches. We have DMs. It's not that we don't have a system in place. So why is it not possible to create? You don't have to create anything except maybe a second rung of ASHA workers. I think that is clearly needed. But you have an existing system. What is the existing delivery mechanism, as you said, in terms of human resources? You have the Anganwadi. What else do you need? Who else do you need in this network?
So we are saying this, that PM responsibility has gone to the CM responsibility.
Right.
CM's responsibility has gone to the DM responsibility.
DMs.
Now we are talking about DM giving responsibility to the SDM.
Right.
So poor chaps in the district, I don't think DMs are sleeping
Right.
or SDMs are sleeping. They are working very hard.
Right.
So our strategy is to work together with the district magistrates and the subdivisional magistrates,
Right.
also with the CMHOs and the BMOs and others. So that is one thing that is needed, is collaboration between the government
Right.
and civil society.
Right.
I'm using your platform to say that to the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Home Minister, to relax FCRA constraints.
Right.
on the sub granting, at least, and for the period of COVID.
Right.
Because money is stuck. What I have laid out the plans, but if there is no money,
Yeah.
you have to pay those workers who are on the ground if you can't pay the soldiers. So one important thing, one piece is this, that collaboration with the government is key, and government should also recognize that we are constrained by resources. If
Right.
an Indian money is not available to that extent as the foreign money is available. So second point is that we need resources. Every block needs something like 40 to 50 lakh rupees. About $60,000 per block is needed to implement the plan. 4-point plan I told you,
Right.
that to implement that. So, and one of the other plans we need is to allow transport.
Yeah.
I mean, not allow, give people support if somebody is ill in the village. There is no hospital which is oxygenated at the block level, sub-district level or CHC level. In most cases, I gave you Bahraich's example, same is the case with Udaipur. So we need to provide support. That is also part of the deal. But also reverse transportation.
Right.
PHCs and the PHC doctors, CHC doctors also need to go to the villages if you want to promote vaccine. So
Right.
important thing is that you also provide transport to them. In Chhindwara district, Srijan has given 3 ambulances so that the doctors can go to the villages for
Right.
vaccination, or for basically showing sympathy and solidarity with the villagers. They are alone. So that is why physical trips and being with them, so they can ask some questions, they can answer their questions.
Right.
And people nobody today who's ill, who doesn't want a doctor. Everybody wants to see a doctor himself or herself.
Right.
So I think
Right.
doctors going to them, and that brings me to the helpline. So
Yeah.
beyond the geo-NGO collaboration, I'm talking about helpline.
Yeah.
So they are in short supply, because it is nobody is to be blamed, but the doctors are not. They don't know how to deal with coronavirus. Most doctors don't know. My wife is a medical doctor. When both of us fell sick in November, we were hurrying and scurrying around for a doctor. Finally, of course, she developed symptoms and we found a doctor in AIIMS. And that's how we sort of sailed through. But so doctor is needed. So how we can get helplines working, local doctors to come forward and recognize them. It is happening by Sandeep Pandey, Magsaysay Award winner in Kanpur and Lucknow. Dr.
Right.
Om Damani is building an IVRS system for helpline. And many doctors are coming. Young MBBS doctors are also coming. So that is a third piece. It is not well organized right now. The fourth thing is needed is that to train the frontline workers
Yeah.
in how to use oximeter,
Yeah.
how to record it. So we are getting all the health training expert organizations together and tell us what are the models you are working on. So Noora Health, Dr. Shahid is coming, Dr. Yogesh Jain, Dr. Raman Kataria of JSS is coming, Dr. Pavitra Mohan is coming from BHS, Dr. Arun Bhatnagar from Tata Steel is coming. So we are bringing these galaxy of people. Tell us what is the best way to train the hundreds of thousands of workers who have not known health before. So this is
Right.
the 4 5 pieces I think that are needed to work with the government. It will basically I am saying that a lot of the approaches are to provide physical infrastructure,
Right.
send oximeters, send oxygen plants, that is required. But do we have trained personnel to use
Exactly.
oxygen concentrators or run oxygen plant? So X-ray machines in several places they lie, unused, as we know.
As we know, there's such horrid tales from hospitals where concentrators are just lying there because people don't know how to use them.
So
I mean,
training,
it's such a
exactly.
tragedy.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that there is, of course, clearly a disconnect between center and state governments. I don't think that piece of the so-called federal structure is working. But do you see a connect between state governments? Are they working well together? Last time you said when you were trying to get people across, you managed somehow, getting people from this state to the other state. What is the situation now between state governments and between center and state?
One thing I don't know about this is not my subject, and I will be very careful in commenting. I know one thing that MyGov is working with ACT grants, and the oxygen concentrators by ACT have reached hundreds of districts based on the demand collected by MyGov from
Right,
district collectors. So, in some ways, I would say the central government is acting, is not seen to be acting. We know that
right,
within the state, with across the states, I have not seen on the ground great connect
okay,
because I don't think within the state itself it is a very great coordinated strategy either.
right,
I'll give you an example why within the state also there is a people are running helter skelter. Several district collectors have asked NGOs, please give us so many pulse oximeters, so many oxygen concentrators, so many masks. I
right,
wanted to send you in the morning a photocopy of the demand somebody has put up to my NGO there in Alwar. And
right.
Niwadi district collector also has asked for 16 oxygen concentrators. And I've given you the example of, so I think there is not adequate resources
Right,
available at the cutting edge.
right.
Can you imagine if we didn't have tanks to fight Pakistan in
Yeah,
1965?
I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
what
and
is
and
happening?
you can't, and the DM cannot ask his own government, he's asking the NGO.
So I give you so many. I not want to name, but
Right.
this is happening in UP. It's happening in Rajasthan. It is happening in Madhya Pradesh. Of all governments, Gujarat government has written to RCRC. Please provide support in setting up and running COVID care centers.
Right.
So can you imagine? Yeah,
But
this is
but
something really
but
terrible.
why is that, Reddy? Because surely there are funds available within the health ministry, which can be allocated to this. What is going wrong in terms of the funds?
I think we pride ourselves that we can run polio vaccine kind of,
Yeah.
drive. We did very well in HIV/AIDS also.
Yes.
I think logistics across the country is not the strong point of the central government.
Right.
This time, central government is given the responsibility, as I said, PM to CM.
Yeah.
So in this case, it was required. Why it was required? Because oxygen concentrators are coming from abroad.
Right.
They're coming from China, for example, or coming from Turkey, or coming from the US. So we needed to run it like FedEx
Right.
or run it like Amazon.
Right.
They are companies that run very well on basically on logistics.
Right.
That we did not put together. That infrastructure or the pipeline is not in place. So what ACT is doing is entirely on its own, whatever pipelines they are arranging. So
Right.
this is where we needed a really cooperative federalism, central state relations, whatever they may be. But in
Yeah.
this crisis, we have to act like one India,
Right.
one nation,
Right.
one fight, one battle. Therefore, logistics had to be arranged to transport. Oxygen concentrators were needed 1 month ago.
Right.
And now we're going to see too much is available and what will
Yeah.
we
The usual. Now we have an excess capacity of beds. Now we have an excess capacity of concentrators. And yet, when the third wave hits us again, there'll be some major gap. I mean, we are just running behind something and not being able to catch up.
Yes.
Is there something in on the horizon, Veggie, that you see? Suppose a third wave hits us. Is there again something that you see that we will be caught napping?
So I think I was talking to somebody in the Gates Foundation. So part of we run a research project,
Right.
and one of the things we will do is to do a health infrastructure survey
Hmm.
and find out what is the demand and the gap. For example, if we want district hospitals oxygenated everywhere,
Right.
whichever way, either oxygen concentrator, oxygen cylinder, oxygen plant, whatever be our ambition, or this PSA or some such thing that they are talking about, then this survey should be done immediately and to find what is the gap.
Hmm.
Now, a recommendation most people are giving is that infrastructure should be available at the block level.
Right.
Block is only 20 kilometers away.
Right.
25 kilometers away. District can be from farthest village, it can be 70, 80, 100 kilometers away.
Right.
So, districts in Bastar are huge.
Yeah, huge.
So, infrastructure wise, we can be prepared, right? So, every block hospital, what we call CHC,
Hmm.
should have oxygen support.
Right.
If we don't want rural people to die,
Right.
because the country continues to be urban focused, then
Right.
this will not get money.
Right.
Which means that if we are only spending 2.5% of our GDP on health, we should up it to 6%, which is
Right.
the WHO norm, which is the UN norm.
Yeah.
And that money which becomes available should be going to building what should I say, COVID compliant or
Right.
third wave compliant block level hospitals and all that.
Right.
Similarly, human resources.
Right.
Human resource wise, technicians training to use these, as well as PHC doctors should be adequately trained with this, as well as sarpanches. I would say panchayats have to be, as I said in the first point, panchayats and the SHG federation leaders, women
Right.
leaders, with the other institutions and the farmer producer organizations.
Right.
Another community organization, which out of the Farm Bill, if you have remembered that,
Right.
these are the community institutions,
Right.
SHG federations and farmer producer organizations. And Nirmala Sitharaman announced 10,000 FPOs have to be set up.
Right.
So that is the institutional backing we have to do. And third thing, 15th Finance Commission is giving 30,000 crores
Hmm.
to 2.5 lakh gram panchayats. So where is that money going to go? So
Right.
can we work on that money and use that money to build a rural health infrastructure? That is the other recommendation I have. And I would say that government can seek NGO support, RCRC support in working with the panchayats and then build up their infrastructure. The money is already allocated by Mr. N.K. Singh in the 15th
Yeah.
Finance Commission. So I think that is another thing we could do together.
Where can we find the money, A, to raise the compensation of the existing Anganwadi workers, Ashas, and B, to raise the number of Ashas?
There is, as I said, money is being invested by the health ministry on health and wellness centers.
Yeah,
How much
exactly.
money- So
Right.
what is health and wellness?
Yeah.
If they are not well and they are not healthy in COVID, So
Yeah.
that money we should look at. I don't have the number for pot of money that is available
I
for
think,
health.
I think 9,000, over 9,000 centers were supposed to be set up.
Large number of have been set up. I don't have the number. I think that work is great, idea is great, and health and wellness centers, 9,000 means for 600, 700 districts. That means every block or more will have. We have 6,000 blocks. That means every block on an average will have 1.5 health and
Exactly.
wellness. That
Exactly.
means close enough to the community. So why
Right.
not equip the health and wellness centers with these facilities that I have talked about?
Right. Right. So have you seen these health and wellness centers having come up in front of you?
I have not seen, but every day we talk about it because my wife works with the health ministry.
Okay.
She was involved in the policy to set up health and wellness centers, NHSRC. She was executive director for NHSRC,
Okay.
Rajni Ved. So I know about this. That it is a very good idea. Very good
Right.
idea. For this, we should give brownie points or otherwise to Prime Minister Modi. So many things. So PMJY also. See,
Right.
in PMJY and Corona Kavach and other things, we should actually talk about. Insurance is not available, Kaveri, for people. So,
Right.
what is insurance coverage, especially in situations like COVID?
Yeah.
That we have to look at because Corona Kavach is not enough because people are dying and their health expenditure is huge. That we
Enormous.
have to
It's
look
just
at.
breaking families.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
destroying families.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the last point that we can quickly go to. I know you have another meeting. These logistical corridors that we had created, that you had sort of created in the first wave, where you were sort of funneling people back to villages, or they were finding their own way. How can these be used for, as we talked about, to funnel other equipment, to funnel vehicles, to funnel ambulances? How can we use these?
I think the most of the solutions will happen locally, but we can learn from what I've heard from Khalsa Aid kind of example
Right.
that you can procure in one place.
Hmm.
And the methodology in my mind is this: you procure, say, anything, oximeter or oxygen concentrator or food or whatever else,
Or maybe an ambulance, anything.
maybe an ambulance, yeah, and use and also they are coming forward, use Ola, DHL,
Right.
FedEx, and other companies to come and tell us how they can distribute it. So in some ways we don't have to create new pipelines.
Right.
The Amazon, this infrastructure is already there, software supported, it is there. And somebody suggesting in the article today in the Indian Express, we can use blockchain and various other things also. So
Right.
I think we need technology also to work with us. We should create a database and of demand, and then the supply can happen. So demand can be aggregated starting from oximeter onwards.
Right.
We can measure and then see, okay, in this district, this is the affliction rate, this is the need, and supply according to that. Because every state can manage it, but all the districts are not suffering to the same extent. So
Right.
we need to find what is the extent of
Geographical spread.
yes.
Yeah, for instance, even in the south, there is less affliction, from what I gather. So we should know where to deploy the resources also.
Yes. In Rajasthan, for example, South Rajasthan has more because they also have returned migrants,
Right.
and Western Rajasthan is not that much.
Right.
And the Eastern Rajasthan, Western Rajasthan means Marber doesn't have that much,
Right.
and Alwar in the east doesn't have that much either. So we need Gehlot government will actually be better off if they focus more resources on South Rajasthan, which also has returning migrants in lakhs and lakhs. And
Right.
now there's some evidence of third wave in Dungapur.
Oh.
512 children have got corona in Dungapur district.
God.
We have to really catch on.
Where are the migrants returning from in South Rajasthan?
So, and this I think I will spend 2 minutes on. See, they go to Surat,
Right.
they go
Oh,
to Bombay. Imagine Udaipur and further south Dungapur. So these migrants are from 4 or 5 districts, and they go to Surat, they go to Bombay, they go to farms of Gujarat farmers. And
Right.
this I have seen in 1988 when I was living in Banswara. Every train going from Udaipur to Ahmedabad was so full, I
Oh,
couldn't get
full.
10 square foot of space. Yes. So they are now, but the problem is they came back much quicker this time,
Right.
and they have much less income and saving this time. So they have run out of cash for food. And these are the
Right.
people who need food, not everybody, but
Right.
migrants who have returned. And
Right.
they need much more support than the people who are living there before. And this is the case, in Lucknow and Delhi also. It was reported 8 lakh migrants have gone back,
Exactly. Just left.
just left. So now many of them are saying that we will not go back to Delhi, will not go back
Right.
to Bombay. And anyway, economy is shattered.
Yeah.
So they will not find jobs easily in the cities. Earlier, last year, we hoped they'll go back. They also hope that they'll go back to the same jobs. If they were working in a restaurant or on it as a delivery boy and a Zomato, they could actually go back to the job. But that has not happened to that extent. At 70-75% people went back. But this time, that our survey showed, but this time they are swearing not to go back. And anyway, there are no jobs in Delhi or Bombay. I
Right.
don't know when the economy will open. So I think this is very, very critical. Migrant situation is going to be most terrible this time.
But I remember, Reggie, last time you had told me that the migrants who had gone back, they were planning to start their own small businesses, or the NGOs were also planning to help them in assisting them in livelihoods. Did anything come of that?
I think our attempts to first of all employ them in Narega did
Right.
not really succeed. Our surveys showed 7% of these returning migrants only were employed in Narega.
Okay.
So that did not help. This because they may be skilled in something else. Somebody
Right.
is in a restaurant in Pune, for example. Many of the
Yeah.
hill people, hill youth from Uttarakhand, they go to
Yeah.
Pune. So I
Right.
have visited. So now they may not want to go and, as they call it, dig holes in the
Right.
Narega. Yeah. So that is so there is a mismatch between either their lifestyle
It's kids.
or their skills with Narega. But there is hope. They could use their WhatsApp skills, mobile phone skills,
Yeah.
so to aggregate demand of the town people, say for food, vegetables
Right.
or grains,
Right.
and then collect supplies from the farmers. So they
Right.
could do the job that the mandis are doing, for example,
Right.
and they have they are smarter youth, and they know how to use
Yeah.
WhatsApp. So, for example, that is possible. Second, they can process things. If we taught
Right.
them how to process, say, oil seed and convert it into
Right.
edible oil, say mustard or sesame or whatever other groundnut, they can be local entrepreneurs. So there is a
Right.
scheme we can actually promote that Buddha Fellowship, my program also supports, is to bring the IIT-IIM engineers to the management graduates to the villages. So that is teaching me that you can do many things. Like one of the Buddha fellows is running a greenhouse to
Right.
grow rose in Guntur of all places.
Mm.
So he's growing rose and then Dutch rose variety and selling it in Hyderabad and Bangalore. And
Right.
it is also revives the farmer economy. So we can
Right.
bring technologies of processing, technology like greenhouse and natural farming. Now
Yeah.
that we know that we don't want to, you and I don't want to eat food which has got
Right.
lots of pesticides. So that is another thing that the returning migrants, that they are entrepreneurs. That is what we have to not label them as migrants, label them as entrepreneurs. And because they
Entrepreneur.
are educated, they have the skills. That is the way forward, I think, for migrants, and that way the village economy also will revive, and that is one solution for the farmer agitation also.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much. You've taken us through such a broad spectrum of ideas, but all of them seem so doable that I really do wish that the right people listen to this and act upon this. Thank you very much, Vedaria, for being with us and for sharing all your knowledge and all your wisdom with us. All the very best in your continued fight against COVID.
Thank you, Kaveri, and thank you, Indian Express. Thank you, Daniel. This is very, very nice opportunity for me to share my experience. On behalf of RCRC, I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Blingy Matching Designer.
ये है मास्क
95% filtration, 5 layers, BIS certified.
ये है बड़े काम का मास्क नया Savlon मास्क सिर्फ 95 रुपीस में